LeBron James to the Lakers? Why do I feel that this is one of the best teams LeBron James has had? And the Knicks, Kevin Knox at number 8, why he might be the steal of the draft, not to mention their hidden gem in the second round. And what other rookies are bound for success in today's NBA? And last but not least, what hidden gem might be hiding in the East that could contend for a championship this year? All this and more on my first ever Sports Lids podcast.
Sports Lids, where we rap sports analysis. Sports Lids, where we rap sports analysis.
We're live at the Sports Libs podcast. What an NBA free agency. And excuse me while I take this shot real quick. This is not for show, guys. This is actually because I have a sore throat. They say whiskey is actually pretty good for you. So give me 1 second here. I don't recommend trying this at home unless you're sick and over the age of 21. But yeah, man, let's talk some NBA free agency, summer league, rookies. I mean, so much going on. Let's start off with the obvious, guys. LeBron to LA. If you haven't checked out my video for that, make sure you check that out. It's pretty cool. But, I mean, it's kind of funny because everybody's like, oh, why'd he go to LA? He must not want to win championships. He's giving up. He just cares about his brand. He wants to be Hollywood. All this stuff. And they make it seem like LeBron's going to this garbage team. Okay, they won 35 games last year. But I mean, their best players were two rookies. LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball, and Kuzma, right? And Lonzo Ball was injured for half the year. Kuzma balled out, and they still won 35 games in the tough West, right? Well, guess what? Now these players are 2 years older. They also have Brandon Ingram, who's a baller. Then you got LeBron. You got McGee. I mean, whatever. McGee's whatever. But, I mean, with those four guys, they could pretty much play positionless basketball. They can have LeBron run the point. They could even have Ingram or Ball. They got shooting and Kuzma. They got Rondo. I don't know if they plan on starting him. I'd rather go with the four I mentioned and McGee because Lonzo and Rondo at the same time on the court, that's really some shooting liability there. I think Rondo would be better. I mean, in some lineups, you can go even LeBron at center and put Kuzma, Ingram, LeBron, and Ball. But I really think this is an underrated team, and I really think they could win or at least compete for a championship just as is, especially they bring in the savvy veterans like a Rondo, like Lance Stevenson. They're going to bring in some toughness. These guys are definitely battle-tested veterans, the type LeBron wants. So I think if the Lakers don't succeed, I think we could put the blame on LeBron. We can't just give him an out because I think this is a pretty decent team. And the other thing is the Warriors. How much better can the Warriors actually be? I mean, guys, Boogie's, yeah, he's a great offensive talent, but they already had great offensive talent. He definitely doesn't bring you much on if anything at all, on the defensive end. So I'm kind of curious to see how much better. He's going to be gone for half of the year, okay? And then, the Warriors have been very, very lucky when it pertains to injuries. And this is my concern with them is, you got two very injury-prone players in Kevin Durant as well as Stephen Curry. And they've always been able to actually the one finals that Curry was kind of dinged up. And I really think that's the only reason they lost. And after being up 3-1 is Steph Curry wasn't at 100% that final. Say what you want. I think he was good about not making excuses, but I know Steph Curry, he definitely wasn't the same guy that finals. And then you got Kevin Durant, who's had his share of injuries. So for the Warriors to make it to 4 straight finals and avoid the injury bug, and they already have Boogie Cousins for out probably what's going to be half the year, I really question, especially some teams really made some nice moves. And I think OKC, by addition, by subtraction, meaning, it's any day now before they buy out Melo or do the stretch provision, whatever they decide to do with him. I doubt there'll be anybody to trade for him. they bring in Noels, and the starting lineup of Noels protecting the rim, granted he has to stay healthy, they stole him for like, I don't know, maybe $3 million. I forget the exact amount. But a starting lineup of Noels, Adams, Paul George, Roberson, and Russell Westbrook is pretty solid defensively. I always wonder about Westbrook when it comes to big games because he's very erratic. Sometimes he could shoot his team out of the game, and it's kind of scary when he's your point guard. But that's a pretty scary starting five. And then if Melo goes to Houston, I'm not a big Melo fan. I love the Knicks. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I never liked Melo on that team. I never liked him as the number one player. But when you get to Houston, he's going to be like the third or fourth best player or third or fourth best option offensively. I kind of like that fit. He's friends with Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul will keep him in check. He knows point blank that he is not, A or B when it comes to leaders on that team. And with that type of open offense and with his shooting, I think he could really do some damage there. So Houston's interesting. OKC's interesting. We mentioned the Lakers and Golden State. They have to be injury-free in order to keep up with these teams because there is no slouch in the West. You have teams that are coming on like a Utah, New Orleans would have been coming on, but now that they lost Boogie and pretty much everybody else on their team, Tyreek Evans and so forth, I don't think they're much of a threat. But the West is going to be interesting, but there's no excuses for LeBron. He's got a good team, all right? And now I want to talk a little bit about maybe some NBA free agency, some underrated moves maybe. I like what the Bucks did. The Bucks stole Brook Lopez for about $3 billion, a starting center who is valuable in this league. He developed a three-point shot. So I thought getting Brook Lopez for those guys. Now, they do need to sign Jabari, and I think they probably will, being that he is a restricted free agent. And no teams out there are willing to give people big money. As you can see, Boogie signing for $5 million, Brook Lopez, guys like J.J. Redick, who are making $25 million, now making $13 million a year. Pope, who the Lakers, who I think, by the way, is a very underrated signing by the Lakers because Pope is one of the few players on that team that can actually hit a shot and plays good defense. They got him for $12 million. I thought that was a good deal, especially since it's all one-year contracts, leaving the opportunity open for next year, them signing a guy like a Klay Thompson. I don't think a Durant or anybody like that. Maybe a Kawhi. Speaking of which, I think Kawhi, for some reason, I don't know why, but I think he's going to end up a LA Clipper. Jerry West is one of those guys. He's been a little too quiet, making subtle moves, freeing up some cap room. And I think they have some good supporting players. They don't have any great players, but I think Kawhi really want to make some move to LA. I don't think he cares about being on a super team or playing with LeBron or anything like that. So I could definitely see him going to the Clippers and being the face. The Spurs have their hands tied behind their back. I mean, they can't ask for a king's ransom like they're currently trying to do. I think that asking price will go down, specifically for a player who's coming off an injury. So the Clippers with Jerry West, solid management group. He has that stature, that name. I would not be surprised at all if they somehow pull off a Kawhi Leonard deal. And like I said, the Lakers, I feel they don't need Kawhi as much as people think, because if they do get Kawhi, they're going to have to give up something. And right now, the Lakers just need to grow. They have some really nice talent, and LeBron's LeBron. Put it like this. The Lakers are a way better roster than Cleveland. And Cleveland, should they have not won, or if they would have won that game one, we might have been looking at a different series. I think losing game one in that fashion, JR doing what he does best, melting down, totally changed that series. So we don't know what it would have been like. But Lakers, like I said, way better roster, way more youth, athleticism, defensive presence, which Cleveland, I think they ranked 29th in defense. I mean, the Lakers have, they're underrated. And Lonzo Ball, I mean, people are just making it seem like he's horrible. The guy plays great defense, great court vision. I think he averaged like 8 assists, almost 7, 8 rebounds a game. The only thing he's missing is a shot. The dude is a stud. And I'll compare him to another point guard who didn't have a shot coming into the league, Jason Kidd. And Jason Kidd was only 6'4". Lonzo's 6'8", okay? And that court vision, you can't teach that. People learn how to shoot. Karl Malone learned a shot. Jordan improved the shot. Dwayne Wade, when he first came in the league, did not have a shot. Even LeBron has improved a tremendous amount in his shooting. So let's not get carried away and just trash Lonzo Ball, okay? So this team is definitely stacked. Going into now Summer League. Summer League was really, really cool, actually, especially if you're a Knicks fan. I love what we've done with both our picks. Kevin Knox, kind of an underrated guy, being on that stacked Kentucky team, has really, really came in and just dunking on people. Big guy, athletic guy. Looks like he has some good heart, a good motor, which a lot of people questioned. That's why you can't always, go into all this, rumors that you hear. You see it all the time in the NFL. This guy lacks motor. I don't know where they get this stuff from, but he's really shown some really, really great athleticism. And also their second round pick, Robinson. This guy hadn't played basketball in, I think they said 14 months. And, he's blocking everything. Big guy. Really like what they're doing with Fizdale. He's got these new guys pumped. Now, I wonder sometimes with these rah-rah coaches, I like to call them, because they're really good motivators, guys like a Doc Rivers. But then eventually some of that, rah-rah fizzles out, and you have to focus on the X and O's, and that's where you get your great coaches like a Brad Stevens, a Greg Popovich. These guys are really good at game planning, at making good in-game adjustments. So it's going to be curious to see, how these guys develop. But they got some interesting pieces. That guy, Super Mario, they signed from the Magic. He's only 23. They took a flyer on him, $5 billion, but he's a guy who was a top 5 pick and still young. So I'm hoping they can revive his career. But at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel if you're a Knicks fan, especially with Porzingis, if he could get back healthy and them having some cap room next year. I hope they actually sit Porzingis the whole year. There's no sense rushing him back, because then with this young nucleus, Kevin Knox a year older, Porzingis coming back, a potentially top 5 to top 10 pick, and a max player, all of a sudden you got yourself a real team. So Knicks fans got a lot to be excited about. Some other guys that are making noise in the Summer League, the number 1 pick, Ayton. Really like what the Phoenix Suns are doing. I think they're a point guard away from really being a contender for a playoff spot. We'll see. I'm not that crazy about Brandon Knight. But I mean, Ayton, of course, they signed Booker to that extension, worth every penny. You got TJ Warren. They signed Ariza, some veteran leadership. So I really like what the Suns are doing. Like I said, I think they're only a point guard away, and then just growing into that team that can really contend for a playoff spot, possibly more in the future. What else has happened in the NBA? Anything else you could think of here, Tony, that we didn't cover? Some draft picks I like, by the way, this is the guy I was really hoping the Knicks would get, was Sexton. He went to Cleveland. He's looking good. And one guy I think that's going to be a bust is going to be Trae Young. Trae Young, I mean, I think Atlanta fell victim to the whole Steph Curry. But how many other undersized shooting point guards have we seen really succeed in the league? I haven't seen too many teams able to successfully build around an undersized for shooting guard, and kind of like, and tweener. They're not really a point guard, but they're kind of undersized for a shooting guard. Don't bring you anything else but shooting, and need volume scoring. They need a lot of shots to be successful. So I'm not a big Trae Young guy, but we'll see what happens. I think Atlanta is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Philadelphia, we'll see what happens with them. I mean, they're solid as can be. I think they don't really need to do anything other than if Marcus Fultz can play like the number one pick, then they don't really need anything. If not, then yeah, they need to get a guy like Kawhi or somebody, one more player away. But if Fultz is that guy, I don't think Philadelphia needs to do a thing. And it's going to be really interesting to see who can be that guy, or if Marcus Fultz is that guy, and whether that's going to be enough to take the Celtics, because I think the Celtics' main advantage is their superior coach. I mean, Brad Stevens is a stud, and he makes up for maybe some talent, because if you look at the top players on Philadelphia, I still think they're better than the top players on Boston, although I think Tatum is definitely a future superstar. But Kyrie, I worry about him. I actually hope the Knicks don't sign him just because of injuries. Two injuries you always got to be worried about is back and his knees. A lot of Knicks fans were mad that the Knicks didn't take Porter. But, I mean, when you're having herniated disc, neck, or knees at this early age and you're going under the knife several times like Kyrie has, I want no part of that, especially if it's a long-term deal with max money, because that can really set your franchise back. So that's the number one issue I worried about with Boston. Not that they did wrong by getting Kyrie, because obviously IT hasn't done much. Have no idea where he is going. I'm hearing the Magic. I mean, the Magic have nothing to lose. If it's a short-term deal, why not take a flyer on him? Bamba has definitely looked the part for the Magic. Big 7-footer, lots of athleticism. The Magic just love centers. Meanwhile, I think they made a boneheaded trade. Did you guys see that? They traded what's his name? Timothy Mozgov. Or they traded for Timothy Mozgov, giving away Biyombo, which I think was just because I thought Timothy Mozgov, his contract was expiring. So I said, okay, expiring contract. They got like 20 centers on the team. But then I realized Mozgov got 2 years. So basically they traded a lesser player for Jerry Grant. I don't know, man. I don't know what the Magic are doing. They definitely need a point guard, and they just keep drafting these big men. Not that I have a problem with Biyombo because he's looked good, but they're going to have to trade Vujicic. They have to do something there because they're just a mess. Maybe IT will work. I don't know, but he definitely doesn't bring you anything on the defensive end, that's for sure. Biyombo going to Charlotte. That was actually a good move for them. Getting rid of Howard, he's a cancer. Where did Howard go?
Wizards.
Oh yeah, Howard on the Wizards. I don't know, that might work, but if it's one of those moves that it might be decent, but the Wizards are just stuck in mediocrity. They have a decent team. I mean, you got John Wall, you got Beals, Howard now, but they're kind of like in that 4th, 5th seed. They're kind of like Toronto. I think Toronto's going to take a step back, kind of be in that 4th, 4th or 5th seed. I think it's really just about Boston and Philly out in the East for sure. The Bucks, yeah, the Bucks. Man, the Bucks just need one player, or if for some reason Jabari can be that player, which is kind of cool. I think Jabari's got his feelings hurt right now because teams aren't just gushing to sign him, but he hasn't played. And if they could sign him to a decent contract, around 12, 13 million at the most, maybe less, maybe 8 or 9 million, so he can prove himself, then, because the Greek Freak is so, great. I mean, outside of like LeBron, he's that guy, and he I don't think the Bucks need 3 or 4 superstars. They just need their Scottie Pippen. And if Jabari can be that guy, I like the Brook Lopez signing. They can really make some noise, but I think they are one player away from contending with the Celtics or Boston. But who knows? Because, with Kyrie's injuries, Philadelphia has also had a lot of injury issues with Embiid. Ben Simmons missed the whole year. So it's going to take either an injury to one of those teams or them signing. I don't think there's anybody they could sign this year, but hopefully if they get Jabari, he can give them enough of that punch with Chris Middleton, and they're already good defensively, and they could kind of, give some of these teams the scares, because the East is still open, but definitely Boston and Philly are a tier above. Yeah. Let's see. Do we have anybody on that has any questions or whatnot? Anything I'm missing, Tony, that we covered, that we haven't covered?
Yeah, man. Just your thoughts on the East, your thoughts on the draft. They say Bagley might be a bust.
Bagley might be a bust. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. If anybody might be a bust, it might be him.
Doncic is supposed to be a superstar.
Who's that?
Doncic?
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to see him. I'm definitely excited to see him. I think, kudos to Dallas to going for it. Mark Cuban, he never hesitates. So kind of like that team with, what's his name, Smith, and the rookie they just got. Dirk's old, but with those two players, they're definitely going to be fun to watch. I want to see if I could catch a Laker game when they come. That should be a fun game to watch. But yeah, guys, so this is my first podcast. Got the first-time jitters out the way. Expect a lot more from this. I'm excited, hopefully, to grow with you guys. I'm going to be doing giveaways. Going to be going to a fantasy football convention this week in Dallas. Hope to get some nice autographs for you guys. And just remember to subscribe, like the Facebook page. Each social media is going to be different in each way. Twitter, Instagram, @SportsLibs. Other than that, guys, have a wonderful week.